Welcome to Exercise 7. We're asked to use an external, internal, and local styles to style a web page. This is kind of a smorgasbord of styles, but it'll give us some good ideas about how to use them all. As with Exercise 6, I'm going to create a div tag here. And I'm going to ID it this time. That is, give it an identity. And I'll call it wrapper. Save it. Close the tag all the way down at the bottom before the closing body tag. Oops. This will give me an internal container on the web page to fix those line widths and whatnot. Let's save it and talk about style sheets. To add an external style sheet to your web page, use the link tag inside of the head section. I'll paste one in here. Notice the link tag has several attributes: rel or relative, style sheet, type, text, / CSS, and then href, which you'll remember from our anchor tags for making hyperlinks. This is our path to the style sheet, wherever we're going to put it. And we need a name for that style sheet. Why don't I call this one, how about Bilbo? And let's save it. All style sheets need to have the suffix .css, so the web browser will know it's not text, it's not HTML, but it's a cascading style sheet. So let's make that style sheet. I've saved this page. File, give me a new text document. And I'll save it as Bilbo. And I'll put it in with the rest of my files. In this case, I don't have a separate folder for style sheets, but that's done fairly often. All right, bilbo.css, there's my exercise 7. We'll save it. Nothing on the page right now. I usually like to give it an initial selector and some choice just so I can tell if the style sheet is attached. So we'll talk about the body. I'll put in the 2 curly brackets that we need to surround our definitions. I'll give it a background color, because lime always shows very well. Let's save it, reload our page, and look, it's definitely working. Let's do some more styling. Let's change this back to white. Because it's a little too glaring. And let's come in and talk about our div whose ID is wrapper. Notice you refer to an ID starting with the pound sign. Let's save it. I'll put in my 2 curly brackets. I don't have to include div in that ID particularly unless I want to. It's optional. I'm going to get control of my text right now by giving it a width, and just like we did last week in the body tag, or excuse me, in the div tag, how about 75%? Let's save it. Okay, good. We can see that our line links are shorter. How about some padding? Excuse me. And we'll give it 2 ems of padding. Ems are a relative measure, and it depends upon the size of the font. Let's save that. Reload. Okay, now to just give us some contrast, we'll make a gray background, and then we'll copy this one down and turn it back into a white one. Let's hit reload. Now we can see what the page looks like. I usually just build it up like this. Let's do our margins. Remember how to center it on the page. Margin. Top and bottom margins, I'll put 0 for now. Auto for left and right margins. This will center it on the page. Good. Let's talk about fonts a little bit. One of the online tools that I enjoy is Typetester. It gives you 3 columns of type and allows you to change certain variables about the type, or a lot of the variables that you would think about working with. The color of the type, you can just type it in here if you want to, or choose their color picker. And notice how the type changes color as I roll over things. That's good. We'll change it back to 444. Same thing with the background. So these are fun tools to play with. One thing to remember, it's set up at a base of 10 pixels. So the size they give you here, 1.6 ems, is going to look a little bit bigger on your page. You can always downsize. Now, in this case, I've chosen some fonts. This one, Verdana, is a pretty generic font. Tahoma is installed on a lot of PCs, and Lucida Grande is on a lot of Macs. So I'm going to put them in an order that will show up the best font for the right machine. Up here, you'll find the little button, and it says, give me the CSS, and I want it for this 3rd column. I click on the button, and there's my CSS. I can just copy it close this window and paste it into my Text Wrangler document, my CSS document. Let's tab this stuff in just a little bit. Okay, and save it. We'll go back to our page, and let's hit reload. Well, suddenly rather tall and big fonts. That's a little bit too big a size. The base size, generic base size, is 16 pixels. So 1 em should be fine. Save it. Hit reload. And line height, maybe a little bit more, 1.7. It's kind of your taste. Okay. The other thing I want to add are the other 2 fonts. Comma, notice Lucida Grande is in single quotes because it's 2 names. There's Verdana. Oh, excuse me, it was Tahoma. And remember to end your font stack, it's called with a sans serif or serif, depending. I'm going to wrap this text. There we go. and save it. This will give me backup fonts in case Lucida Grande is not installed. Most likely, most PCs will show the page in Tahoma. Okay, background color, good. White. The color there is... Alright, we can get rid of this background color already. Let's see how it looks now. It should look the same. Okay. That sets the base font and the base look of anything that's inside of this wrapper div. Let's talk about headings. I'm going to put in my selectors here, H1 for my big heading, a comma, which kind of stands for and, H2, H4, and just in case, H6. This allows me to group all my headings together. I'll put in my mustache brackets, and let's go for font family. This way I can set the headings, fonts, all at the same time and get a lot of consistency going on. Now I've chosen a few. I think I'll start with one that looks good on a Mac. I know Arial Black. Oops, it needs to be in single quotes. I'm just picking a few fonts, and these are sans serif as well. There. Let's save that, reload our page. And now I've got a different heading style, and it works for all the headings I've got in the page so far. Your style sheet can work on every page on your site, and that's the real big important thing. The other thing about style sheets, notice there's not a smidgen of HTML code. You don't see any of those angle brackets at all. All you see are the selectors, which may or may not be a body tag or a tag name. And you see these curly brackets are sometimes referred to mustache brackets. The selector says, this is where I want to apply this definitions, or these definitions. Style sheets are fun. You can change things in an instant. Alright, let's play some more. I think I'll add a border to finish off for the time being. We're going to play with some more fun stuff in the next video. Alright, for my wrapper, remember border needs three things. It needs a style, space, a size, and a color. And notice I put the semicolon in whether or not I need it, whether or not there's going to be something else afterwards, just in case. Let's save it. Let's reload here. I'll change it to 3 pixels just to make it more apparent. There. Alright. Play around with these tools and see what you can come up with.